Now, in terms of the 5 components of ROS, this is one of the more vulnerable components, but we're getting towards the end of more of the vulnerable stuff here. So for those of you that this makes really uncomfortable, there's some light at the end of the tunnel. Just a quick recap: we've done the who component kind of in Q1. We're covering the why component here in Q2. We're going to then transition to what, how, and when, which is all about what you actually do day in and day out, how you do it, how you execute day in and day out, and when, kind of rhythms of maximum effectiveness. So again, today we're gonna talk about the why component. All right, so I wanted to just talk about the Zoom poll that we did last time we talked about purpose. So these were the results of that Zoom poll. So rather than doing a separate Zoom poll today, I wanted to just remind you of how you all answered this question. I asked the question, hey, when it comes to purpose, what category do you relate with most? Now, actually, the majority of you felt like you know your purpose and you're living it out daily, which is great. The next most answered kind of response here was, I have a sense of my purpose, though I'm not really sure I'm living it out daily. And then other folks responded, I think I know my purpose. I'm honestly not sure. I've tried to find my purpose and gave up, or I have no clue what my purpose is. So for today's session, we want to just move everybody up kind of one rung on the ladder to be a little bit closer to being able to answer with that top question. I know my purpose. I'm living into it daily. Great. Well, we're going to jump into just talking about the 3 common barriers that I found to living out our purpose every day. So this should connect really well to a lot of the conversations we just had. The idea here is for you to all walk away feeling like, okay, there is a way in which I can live out my purpose today. And so the first barrier that I want to share, and these are all things that I've struggled with from time to time. This is how I develop this content, is I say, hey, what would have been helpful for me to hear? And what's still helpful for me to hear? Because again, I haven't arrived. I'm just a person who's learned these things that's helping to teach them and facilitate the dialogue around them. So the first barrier that I think we probably all face is what I would call purpose paralysis. So you've heard of like paralysis analysis before, where you just feel paralyzed by the weight of the topic. I think this happens to a lot of us, and many of you shared this. Mel mentioned this as he was sharing. Hey, it's always felt too big. I've always felt like it's kind of hard to really figure out, really grasp. I think sometimes we make this like too big. We're waiting for this big grand reveal, this like burning bush. Wow, I now know my purpose. And oftentimes that just doesn't happen for the majority of us. For the majority of us, purpose is something that we kind of figure out over time, and it changes over time. But it's really something that we live out in those small daily moments. So rather than like trying to figure out this big one, it's, hey, how can we live out our purpose in the daily moments? How can we live out our purpose today in smaller bite-sized ways? So again, common barrier that I hear is just kind of this purpose paralysis, us feeling like we'll never figure out our purpose just because it's too big and too complicated. The second barrier that I feel like we often kind of bump into is what I'm going to call comparison culture. So this is where we're often comparing ourselves to others. So you see people that you feel like, oh, they've got to figure it out. They really understand their purpose. And all of a sudden it leads to us feeling inadequate or discouraged. When we're seeing others really living out their purpose and feeling like they know it, they figured it out, and we're still kind of lost or still figuring it out. I think it's important to remember that everybody's journey is unique. So what works for somebody might not work for you. So instead of comparing yourself to others, start with your who component, focus on your values, your strengths, your passions. One of the things I think is unique about our day and age is social media has just made it really difficult to not compare ourselves to others. You guys have probably heard me say this before, but social media usage is inversely related or correlated to happiness. Because what we're often doing is we're comparing ourselves to a photo of the best 5 minutes of somebody else's day, and we're not realizing that the other 1,435 minutes of their day might have been a little bit challenging. They might have gone through some adversity and some difficulty, but they're not posting that stuff on social media. They're posting all the smiles from, that dinner that they had with their besties or whatever. I saw this quote just last week, and I love this. This quote comes from a Dr. Prem Gayasi, I think is how you pronounce it, but said the only person you should compete with is the person you were yesterday. So I actually saw somebody put that on their mirror. They said, you have one competitor. You only have one competitor, and that is you yesterday. So instead of comparing ourselves to others, think about comparing yourself just to yourself. It's really a journey that you're going on through with yourself, that you're continually trying to improve day after day. So that's the second one, comparison culture. The third barrier is external expectations. So this is another common barrier. This is something that I had struggled with as well. One of the things I've realized is a lot of people who become doctors and lawyers because their parents said, you're going to be a doctor or you're going to be a lawyer. It's like we put this pressure on ourselves from people that we really value. I actually looked this up because I was curious. 48% of people say that their parents strongly influenced their career path. And almost 2 in 3 parents say that they're disappointed with their children's choice of their career because they didn't do what they had wanted them to do. So just think about that from an external expectation standpoint. So many of us are just looking to maybe please somebody else, oftentimes our parents, but maybe an authoritative figure in our lives that may have influenced us at a young age. Don't let other people define our purpose. Only you can define what your purpose is. So don't let those influences from those external parties really define you and define what makes you tick. It's really up to you to decide. So quick recap of those 3 common barriers. Again, these are all things that I had dealt with, struggled with. The first is purpose paralysis, the barrier of purpose paralysis, making it too big, too overwhelming, striving for perfectionism in our purpose. I love that Ed has it, dialed down into a sentence, but don't let that be your goal. Don't let perfect be the enemy of progress. Just go ahead and try to make progress in your daily purpose. The second is comparison culture. Don't compare yourself to others and their purpose. Don't try to be somebody that you're not. Just live into your own purpose. Be who you are. Think about your who component. If you look at each of our individual who components, every single one of us is different. And that's what is amazing about us. So if we all have a very different who component, we should all have a very different why component as well. And the third is external expectations. Don't let the pressures of other people telling us what we should do or maybe what our purpose is drive our discovery. It's really work that we need to do ourselves as opposed to having others tell us what our purpose is. So as you might imagine, we've got a tool that I'm going to be sharing with all of you that you can use to kind of help think through some of the specifics here. This is a new tool. It's a variation of a tool we used to use called the Purpose Illuminator. This is called My Purpose Today. I really like this tool because what we're going to do is we're going to take an ordinary, everyday situation and turn it into an opportunity for us to live out our purpose and really help to discover our purpose. Now, you're likely not going to do this tool every day. You're not going to print this out every single day and say, hey, what's my purpose today? But I think if you could do this like one day or maybe 2 days, the idea is to help develop a mindset of thinking about purpose day in and day out. So let me just go through this tool, and I'm actually going to go through this tool for me for today. So let's pretend that it was this morning and I filled this tool out. First thing is, what is an opportunity on the professional side of my day for me to really think about and live out my purpose? Well, I actually picked today's Monday team meeting. So I had to, lead this session in the Monday team meeting today. So here I am. So the first thing I want to do is think about my who component. Well, one of my strengths finder strengths is communication. One of my motivational patterns on my M code is make an impact. So maybe I could communicate to make an impact today. Now here's where the fire really is with this tool. I want to actually picture my best self. So what do I look like my best self showing up to this Monday team meeting? Well, I would be energized. I would be clear. Hopefully I'd be inspiring. Hopefully you'd leave a little bit inspired. What does my worst self look like? I might lack energy. I might be unclear. I might be kind of monotone, a little bit boring. You guys would, be turning off your video, taking a little nap on this call. And hey, I don't know if I've succeeded one way or the other, but I'm painting a picture of what a best self and a worst self looks like. So then I can ask myself, okay, well, what's an action that I could take to be my best self? Well, I could prepare the week before. I can maybe practice the morning of, get a good night's sleep. Honestly, I didn't get a very good night's sleep last night. Mila, our youngest, was up in the middle of the night. I feel like, our kids have had colds. It's probably starting to impact me a little bit as well. So, the idea is control the controllables. Obviously not everything is in our control, but that was the picture that I painted of, hey, how could I really show up well to live out my purpose in the Monday team meeting? So let's look through a personal example. What's a personal example? Well, here's an opportunity. I like to do one-on-one time with my kids. I strive for about 10 minutes with each kid every day is kind of my goal. So maybe I could do one-on-one time with Ava, Eliza, and Mila after work when I get home before we do dinner. So that's an opportunity for me to live out my purpose. A little bit about my who component that could connect with this. Positivity is one of my 5 strengths on StrengthsFinder. And again, make an impact. So maybe I can actually make an impact on my 3 daughters by showing up in a positive and healthy way to each of them when I get home. So what does my best self look like? Well, I would be engaged. I'd be fully present. I'd be connected to them. They would feel me being present with them. They would feel my connection. What could my worst self look like? I'd be distracted. Maybe I'd be on my phone. I'd be answering emails, and they would notice that. Kids are very observant. They notice when I'm distracted, even if my mind is just somewhere else and I'm not like totally looking at them and focused. My kids notice it. So that's a picture of my worst self. So what can I do to prepare? Well, I could turn my phone off when I'm with them. I could answer my emails before going home. I could really bring my energy, sometimes even like when I get home, do a couple of jumping jacks before I walk in the door or something, right? Like get myself hyped up for them. Cause honestly, when I get home, they bring all the energy, right? Like you guys who have kids know, you get home and they're like, and so for me, it's, hey, how can I match their energy? Or at least get close to it, even if I can't match it. So that's the My Purpose Today tool. You just take 2 situations that are in front of you today, one personal, one professional. You connect it to your who component. You think about your best self and your worst self, and then you just come up with a little action item to help you live into your best self in that particular situation. Again, you're not going to do this tool every day. I get it. But if you can do this tool like for one day, the idea is you start to have that mindset. So now when I go home, I think about my one-on-one time with my kids, and I think about bringing energy. And same thing with this meeting. I think about showing up in a way that would be effective and that would be inspiring, that would be helpful for each and every one of you because I care about you. I want to make an impact. It connects deeply to my motivation. So that's the idea behind this tool. So a quick recap of this session, and then we'll move to conclude. What are some things that you could be thinking about in terms of removing those barriers to you understanding your purpose? Again, just don't get stuck in purpose paralysis. Don't be thinking about this as bigger than it needs to be. Don't compare yourself to others. Don't get sucked into comparison culture. And don't let external expectations weigh on you in terms of how you think about your purpose. Only you can define your own purpose. A few action items for you to take from here. I always love to make these as practical as possible. So first thing is I would just encourage each of you to examine yourself and examine, hey, what are the barriers that are holding me back to understanding my purpose? So for the 38% of you that have said, I think I kind of know my purpose, I'm not so sure I'm living it out daily, take a few quiet minutes, whether it be a clarity break, silent retreat, whatever it is, even just a few minutes in the morning, and just journal and say, hey, what is it that's holding me back from understanding my purpose? Then definitely recommend you maybe pick a day and print out the tool. Kim's going to post it in the chat. Print the tool out, or you could do a fillable PDF as well. And just think through, hey, today, what are 2 situations, one personal, one professional, where I could really live out my purpose, where I have an opportunity to be my best self, and there's an opportunity to be my worst self, and I care enough to try to move towards the best self. And then third, just encourage you all to reflect. So reflect on your interactions from the prior day, even if you don't do the tool, no big deal. At the end of the day, just look back on your day and say, where was I my best self today? Where was I my worst self today? You've probably heard me say this before, but we don't learn from experience. We learn from reflecting on experience. So you've really got to give yourself some time to reflect. There's actually there's an exercise called the examine, where you look back on your day and you say, hey, where was I in a positive energy in this day? Where was I in a really negative energy in this day? It's a spiritual exercise, but I think it's really kind of cross applicable to any aspect of our life. So just do a little bit of an examine your day and see where you showed up at your best. So that's it. That's all we have for today. Really encourage each of you to take some time to think about purpose and think about your purpose today, tomorrow, every day. Don't make it a huge thing. It's really about taking your who component and becoming your best self in the moment and in that day.